Hello, and welcome to the Black Crow Gaming Adeptus Custodes Tactica video. My name is Aaron, and for those that know me and have seen me on the tournament scene, you all know that I love Adeptus Custodes. I love Adeptus Custodes so much that I've decided that we would, on Black Crow Gaming, do our own video dedicated to all things Adeptus Custodes. And this is episode 1. So if you're watching it, remember this moment. This is episode 1 of the Adeptus Custodes Tactica video. And what we're going to do in this is we have started as well an Adeptus Custodes competitive Discord, which will be linked in the chat. So make sure you jump on there. And that is already filled with some of the best Adeptus Custodes players in the UK. And what we plan on doing is I'm going to listen, I'm going to watch all the topics that come up in that Discord, and then I'm going to pick some of them and bring them onto the YouTube channel, and we're going to talk about them. And one we discussed recently is literally what we're going to be discussing today, which is what's the best heavy support choice from Imperial Knights for Adeptus Custodes. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of that, we need to do certain things. So let's talk about the sponsors. We are sponsored by 2 amazing sponsors. We've got Glasshammer Gaming. If you want some cheap Warhammer at one of the cheapest places in the UK to buy Warhammer at this moment in time, well, it's just got better for you, because if you put in Black Crow in the coupon code, you get an additional 5% off. They already do up to 15 to 20% discount on their products. That now means you get 20 to 25%. Now, this also works on their events, guys. So if you're wanting to go to their Warhammer events, and I recently went to one of their super majors and it was fantastic. It was a brilliant event and 100% worth going. I definitely suggest you put in the Black Crow Gaming 5% off so that you can get an extra 5% off those ticket costs. Our other sponsor that's worth noting and is the amazing Terrain Forge. They are our channel terrain maker. They sent us the terrain that is currently used on our battle reports, and if you go on there, you can see exactly the quality that is there. We thankfully have had one of our in-house painters who's done a fantastic job. But if you fancy getting yourself either some UKTC terrain, some WTC terrain, go to Terrain Forge, or if you want your own terrain made to your own specification, drop him a message. We did that. He put Black Crow Gaming on the GT terrain, and you know what? It's fantastic. It's the best terrain that I own, and I love it. And it packs away nicely. So TOs out there, if you're looking for some good terrain, go here and pop in BCG5. That gets you 5% off your purchase from Terrain Forge, which is fantastic. The other part of business that I need to conduct today is, if you like what you see, guys, I'd really appreciate you doing the following. Give us a like, drop us a cool subscribe, and also hit the bell notification, because every time I do something like this, you'll be able to see when I've uploaded a video, or you'll be able to see when we've gone live and we've done the podcast, or you'll be able to see when we have done a battle report. But anyway, let's get to the topic. Imperial Knights. So on the Discord, it kind of came down to 2 options, and they're the 2 options that we're going to talk about today, and that was Canis Rex and the Armiger Warglaives. And we were talking about which one's the best to take overall, and I actually think there's an argument for both. We'll get into that, but let's go into the facts. So Canis Rex. If you don't know who Canis Rex is, he's a bit of a beast. He is this chap right here. So he is a model that when he explodes, you get a cool little loan up model that you can use as well, which has his very own data sheet, so he can go around and do like actions and so on. And Imperial Knights got a decent buff recently. So the big knights can walk through terrain. They just have to roll a battle shock test and they can go through. And they can do actions and still do things on the point, which is pretty tasty, especially considering he's a bit of a monster when it comes to certain aspects of this game. Anyway, so this model has a movement of 10, he's toughness 12, he's got a save 3+, he's got a whopping 22 wounds, he's leadership 5+, and he's OC 10. So you need to get a few Space Marines on that objective to be able to take him off. And he's got some pretty awesome rules as well. Like his main core abilities are that he has the legendary free blade ability, which basically means is once per turn you can target this model for a stratagem for 0 CP, which isn't actually that anymore. It's minus 1 CP. But the only one you're ever going to be really doing on this model is charge tank shock. Now, guys, tank shock has changed. It's no longer based on your strength. You're not going to be getting whopping 20 dice. You're going to be getting 12 because it's based on your toughness. And he is still one of the toughest models in the game at toughness 12. So absolutely worth doing it just for that. His other one is pretty amazing as well. Each time this model makes an attack on a 5 and a 6, it's a class as a critical hit, which is important to note because he has sustained hits on everything he does. What's that? Everything? Yes, everything. His shooting ability, his combat ability, all of it has sustained hits, which is pretty awesome. Like, as a Custodian player and you're playing Shield Host, 5 and 6s feels good when you're critting into everything on 5 and 6. So Canis kind of fits already into that Adeptus Custodes Shield Host sort of build, which is probably where we're going to go with if we're going to take a Canis Rex model. He also has something that's really cool. He's got some pretty good guns. So he's got the Chainbreaker Lance Impulsor, which is a high intensity, only 24 inches, D6 attacks with a Ballistic Level 2+, strength of 14, AP 3, 4, flat 4 damage. That's pretty tasty. And he's got blast. And also he's got sustained hits on that. So if you roll your D6, you're going into a 10-man blob of Terminators. You know, if you spike nice, you could end up with quite a lot of hits, and then you get some sustains on there. You know, he's the toughest Terminator in the game is an Alaris Terminator at toughness 7, and you're going to be still wounding them on 2s. So, and for every failed save, it's a dead Terminator. Perfect. So he's pretty good at that heavy infantry killing. He's pretty good into vehicles as well, to be fair, with most vehicles being at toughness 11, toughness 12, as we've seen with Canis. And, you know, he is strength 14, so at most he's going to be wounding them all on 3s. Can't knock that at all. His other shooting ability is a bit meh. And the reason it's a bit meh is quite simply because of its AP lets it down. You've still got your 2d6, blast, sustain hits 1, ballistic steel 2+, but it's strength 7, AP 1, 2 damage. Into the right target, that could do some work. But at AP 1, there's just so much cover in the game. Most things nowadays are getting cover. So you're going to be kind of wounding, like hitting everything, and they're going to be having their save as a 3+, 2+. You know, it's not going to really bother them so much. Then they've got like a little multi-laser, which is kind of, you know, like equivalent of a Night Stubber. You've got your 4 attacks with that, hitting on 2, strength 6, 0 AP, and 1 damage. So, meh. It's some free shots. You just throw them and see what happens. The melee abilities are pretty tasty, folks. Pretty tasty. So he's got Freedom Hand. You've got your strike and you've got your sweep. With your strike ability, he has got sustained hits. He has got 5 attacks. He's hitting on a 2+. He's strength 20, which is massive. And he is AP 3, damage 9. Just let that sink in for just a second. Damage 9. So most stuff that gets hit by this dude, he's going to be, it's going to put stuff to paste. Again, no, AOC will take him down to AP2. So if there are 2 up, they'll be going up on a 4 up. But it's that sustained 5 and 6s, folks. That's what's going to be really helping you here. And, you know, I like it. It's good. Its sweep ability is pretty decent as well, though. And that's something that I think you could probably utilize more. It's got 10 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 10, AP 2, 3 damage. Into infantry, that is just going to flat slam. It is super strong. It's going to ruin most things that it touches. And I'm here for it. Like, I like it. Like, he is tasty. But he does come with some caveats, right? So he's got a 5 up invulnerable save against ranged attacks. So just think about that for a second. So anything that shoots him, 5 up invulnerable save. That's fine. He's tough as 12. He's got 22 wounds. It's going to take a little while to kill him dead through shooting, right? Getting into combat is probably a little bit of a different story because he is only a 3+ save. You get enough wounds through onto him, he will die quite spectacularly. So you just got to really pick, folks, your targets with Canis Rex and what he's doing. But to summarize, he is 435 points, and in already an elite army, that can feel like a lot of points to kind of give away. So you've really got to be really clever with how you play him. He is, without a doubt, a massive threat. You put him in the midboard behind a piece of terrain where he can gain cover, and he can just chill there, lurking, ready to strike. Most things aren't going to want to go anywhere near him because he's got this massive movement and he's got D6 charge, right? So he essentially has a 22-inch threat range. What I mean, folks, by threat range, whenever we talk about this, is your movement plus charge. And you must always take it at the maximum because you never know if you're going to roll those sweet double sixes and get a massive charge off. All of a sudden, you've covered a 22 inches of the board and your opponent's in a bit of trouble. He does come with this cool lone op character, and that's really cool. He can do action and function, which, when we talk about the Armigers in a moment, they just flat can't do that without sacrificing their shooting, which is, is what it is. He does give you, obviously, that free tank shock ability, and that's pretty nice. When you're going into a combat scenario, you're already pumping the damage out, and in this game, you just basically, whatever he touches in combat, he needs to just kill. You've just got to really play with a model that's 435 points. You really need him to get his points back, because ultimately he's there to do more than what his points cost is. And as a Custody player, like, the one thing that I've noticed really recently, if we're not taking the Caladius tanks, and you take an all infantry, you do lack this damage output. Now, some people out there may agree with me, and that's really cool. If you do disagree with me, pop it in the comments and we can talk about it. But if you agree, cool. You kind of know what the risks are of taking Canis Rex. And I think on a tabletop, he would look awesome. Will we see him competitively? Potentially. I don't see why he couldn't be in a list that goes 3-2, maybe even 4-1. Don't see why not. If you play him correctly, he can be absolutely menacing. And I think out there's a build that exists where Canis Rex has a home with Custodes. So welcome to Adeptus Custodes Canis Rex. On the next slide, we have got the Armiger Warglaives. Now, these ones are important. I want to talk about the Warglaives because let's just roll back to what they actually do. So they've got a movement 12. So pretty snappy. They're on a circular base. No pivot issue there. Their toughness 10. Great. Nice and tough. 3 up save. 12 wounds. 7+ leadership, which is a bit meh. But they are OC 8 on the point, which is pretty dope. Having a high OC, being able to put them onto a point and control that objective is really useful because they're enough of a deterrent to not just run at with something. You've got to really think and plan what you're going to use to take out one of these Armiger Warglaives. And if you double up on a point, you've really got to think and plan what to do. When it comes to their own personal abilities, they've got obviously this charge ability, Impetuous Glory, I think it's called, something along those lines. I can't pronounce it. Each time a model makes a charge move until the end of the turn, melee weapons equipped by this model have sustained hits 1 ability. It's pretty nice. We'll take that. I like it. Not necessarily thinking you're going to be using them too much for combat, but they're pretty good. It also has an invulnerable save of 5+ against ranged ability. That's like the Knight's theme, right? They don't get an invulnerable save in combat, but they do when you're shooting at them. So the plus about these guys is you put them in cover, and your opponent has to dedicate stuff to actually kill them. You know, they've got 12 wounds. You have to think about what's going into this model to kill them, and you can't just throw anything at them to try and do it either. The guns they come with, they've got this stubber, they've got a melter gun, and they've got the thermal spear. So the thermal spear is melter 4. It gets 2 attacks at 24 inches. It's ballistic seal 3+. It's strength 12, AP 4, D6 damage. Lovely. Get at 12 inches range. Within 12 inches range, even better. D6 plus 4. So that's pretty good. So, you know, you're probably going to roll 2 dice. You're probably going to hit with 1. You might wound if you like. It's not the most efficient gun. Fine. It's then on top got a pintle-mounted melter gun or heavy stubber. You're always probably going to just take the melter guns and just go and melt stuff. You know, having 3 melter shots is much better than having 2 melter shots. Just is. That's just maths, folks. 3 is better than 2. So I'm told. Anyway, the cool thing about this unit is, which is really big, is their battle line. And in a game where actions and battle line units are important, potentially, they could come up really useful. For example, there's certain missions there where you need battle line units to do actions on points. They do that, points win prizes. Prizes equal you winning game, you winning game equals a happy custodian player. However, this does come with a big however. If you're doing an action on an objective with this model, you're not going to do anything else. So they are literally going to stand there. But the benefit to them is they are fast moving, they are battle line, and they can walk on and just kind of live on to a point. And it kind of keeps vehicles honest. So from these infantry lists that I've been running, the one thing that I've noticed is people playing against me with vehicles can be like, cool, you've got bolters, they're not really going to do much. I'm going to put them right on the line. And they're just very disrespectful of your custodian army, right? I mean, most custodian armies nowadays, they've got the Venatari, you've probably got the Wardens in there. You've got your Blade Champs because they're the best character for Adeptus Custodes currently. But I feel like a Warglaive, it's enough of a deterrent to keep people honest, and maybe they will sit back a little bit with their vehicles, meaning that it's harder for them to get angles for shooting you, meaning that you can keep your precious troops alive a little bit longer. Some of the key points about these guys is as well, they are only 150 points each, which, you know, we talked about Canis earlier being at 435 points. These guys are 150 points each. So taking 2 of them as 300 points and you've got this 135 points spare, that's 2 Terminators. Just think about that. Another 2 Terminators. They are battle line, which, you know, is excellent. It means that you can probably afford not to take any battle line custodian guard. Why wouldn't you? I don't know, but you could. They've got this big 12-inch movement, which is fast. You need them to get on there to do objectives, get onto the objectives, do actions. They can do that. The OC8, which is good. Again, you're going to need a few Marines on there to steal that point from you. And you've got to commit. If you put both on there, you've got to commit quite a lot of resources. Toughness 10, small arms fire people is not going to kill these unless you've got loads of it. So, when I say load, I mean lots. Unless you were incredibly unlucky with your rolling, which does happen. I am sat right here, it's happened to me. You are likely to be able to get past your generic bolt fire. That being said, there are armies out there that can turn their low strength weaponry into absolute monster killers. And you can do that again with 6-man Alaris Blob, for example. You put a shield captain in there, you give them the 5-point from Shield Host again, because we all love Shield Host, the 5-point ignore cover enhancement, and all of a sudden you're pushing these guys onto a 4-up, and you can give them lethals, and then the next thing you know, they've got 15 saves to make. That can happen, that can be a problem, and you could quickly lose a Warglaive. But that's a niche circumstance. There are other armies out there that can probably do the same. But when it comes down to it, both these units have a utility. And when we talked about it in the Discord, it was pretty resounding what people wanted to use this for. And if you put in the comments which one you think would be better for your army and your style of play. That'd be really cool to see. But most of the guys on Discord said Canis Rex is by far the superior option. And the reason that is because he is just so deadly, so difficult to take down because of that high toughness. And also, it kind of fills that gap of you need someone with high OC. You want someone to be a deterrent on an objective. You need a model that can do the damage output. He kind of like ticked all those boxes. Yes, it's at a premium. It's at 435 points, and that is a lot of points for a custodian player. But it's worth considering, and I think going forward, it's absolutely worth giving both of these data sheets a trial in your games. If you've got these models, give it a go, or if you go on TTS and you just want to kind of try before you buy, certainly go on there. So I thought we'd have a look after this. I kind of prepped a couple lists, just thrown them on there. They might not be the most competitive options, but they're competitive enough. So I don't leave home without 2 Blade Champions in a list. I think they are fantastic. I've then gone for 1 5-man Custodian Guard with a shield and a Sentinel Blade with the Canis Rex list. And the reason I've gone for a Custodian Guard with a shield and Sentinel Blade is because I like to have a guy in there with 4 wounds, because you can tank 2 free damage that comes at you. And there's a lot of free damage in the game. So if I was you, I'd really be considering making sure you've got 1 guy to die, basically. I've then got 2 5-man Custodian Warden blobs with spears and the Vexilla. You always want to take a Vexilla on the Custodian Wardens, and the reason you always want to take a Vexilla is because it makes them OC free. All of a sudden, you have got 15 OC on a point rather than 10. Pretty big difference. I've also whacked in 2 units of free Venatari with spears and the Tarsus Buckler. Again, the Tarsus Buckler to give the extra wound for that man that's happy to die. And then they're there to kind of fly around and do what you need them to do. You've got 2 units of 4 Witch Seekers. I love Witch Seekers. I think they always have a home in a Custodes list, and the reason that is because of their scout move. And if you need a cheeky overwatch from someone who's trying to steal your home objective, you flame them, make them so that they have to take a battle shock, and there's always that chance that they fail the battle shock test. Next thing you know, if they had storm hostile or blah blah blah, take the point off of you, they can no longer do that, which feels pretty big. I've then gone for a double assassin. This is something I want to try in this, folks. I like the idea of 2 lone op characters just going around mincing people. The Calidus assassin, people say, is worse. I think she's probably better. That 12-inch aura of Vex, of like that +1 AP to sorry, not +1 AP, +1 cost to the stratagems, to your command point CP, +1 CP. That's pretty strong. That's really strong. So with someone who wants that AOC near you, and I keep using AOC as an example because Marines are the ones you see everywhere. AOC becomes 2 CP, which all of a sudden for a Marine player could be quite costly. And I really like that. Eversaw Assassin is a torpedo of madness, and I love it, and he will live in my list. He also has Scout 9, which is just awesome. And you see there's a common theme here. I've kind of put that in both these lists. And then obviously a big man himself, Canis Rex, because this is the whole point. I wanted to show you what a Canis list could look like. And that, for me, I think is a pretty well-rounded, strong Canis list. If you disagree, put what you think would be cool in the comments, or join us on Discord and talk to us about it. In the next corner, the Armiger corner, we have 2 Blade Champions. We have 2x3 Alaris Terminators, because I love Alaris Terminators. You have 2x5 Wardens, again, with that Vexilla. We've got the 2x3 Venatari with Spears and Tarsus Buckler, 1 unit of Witch Seekers, 2 Armiger Warglaives, and then the double Assassin. Now, you're probably wondering, Aaron, why have you not taken any Custodian Guard? Well, it's because I don't need battle line, because I've got the Armigers. So I thought, well, I could drop my battle line, put the Armigers in, and take some more harder hitting elite Custodes. Funnily though, Custodian Guard are probably one of the more harder hitting units because of those reroll to wound on the point. But hear me out. Alaris Terminators absolutely slam because they've got a lot of shooting. They've got 4 wounds, so they are always tanking 2 of the 3 damage, and they hit hard in combat. And in Shield Host, they just feel particularly deadly. Obviously, neither of these lists are really designed for Talons. Absolutely not designed for Null Maiden, and it's not an Auric champion build either. We will come into those in future episodes, and we'll talk about them on the Discord first, and then I'll present what we talk about on here later on. I think these are two really well-rounded lists. I think they both have play. These are something that I would play test. I don't know if I'd run them at an event because I'd need to play test them first. But I think they'd be fun. I think they'd be really fun to play. And like I said, the overall view on our Discord was that Canis Rex is a stronger unit. But anyway, guys, this kind of concludes the first episode of the Adeptus Custodes Tactica. I kind of just wanted to give you an insight of what sort of things we could be taking into us as support for our Custodes list, because Christ, we need it sometimes. We need that extra support. And it also adds some versatility into our builds. And don't get me wrong, like the Caladius tanks, I still think are amazing. And we will talk about those in the future as well, I'm sure. But from me, Aaron, I just want to say a massive thank you if you've watched this. This is my first solo video project. So hopefully you've enjoyed what you see. And I've been Aaron from Black Crow Gaming. See you guys later.